Hey guys, sorry I'm late. I got carried away. I was playing my guitar and I forgot what time it was. I let you wait a little longer. I apologize. How's everybody doing this Sunday? Everybody doing good? We got a few people here nice and early. I guess the rest will trickle in. Nice to see you all. Let me just do something here. What's going on? I gotta just mute the background stuff happening here. I was looking at some of your comments before I started the live stream, and we'll get into all those great topics in a second. And I just want to welcome everybody. How's everybody today? Um, Big week this week. A lot of interesting news and some cool stuff happened that we'll talk about, and some sad stuff happened that we'll talk about. And but I want to start with you guys. So please say hello. Don't be shy if you're lurking in the background, especially if you're new. Welcome to the show. The show's all about gear, guys. You know the drill. You guys that are here all the time, the regulars. For the newcomers, welcome. If you have any gear related questions, you want to talk about your guitar, you want to talk about issues you're having with some pedals or advice, this is the place to do it. So welcome, guys. All right, we're at show number 272, just to make sure everyone's on the same page. And last week we talked about a couple of interesting things as well. And as per usual, some people have some great questions. I always do appreciate the gear related questions. Sometimes I can answer them, sometimes I can't. But if I can't, I'll defer them to you guys. Usually we get an answer. Somebody can answer the questions. I'm playing my Telecaster here today. I haven't played this one in a while. I was still last week. I don't know if you guys were here and remember. I was playing around with the FM9 patch for the new Supro patch that they released. I'm a big fan of the Supro amps, and they added the Supro Black Magic to the software update in the FM9. So I was playing around with it, and I was trying to get a good sound out of it. I was trying, when I think Supro, I think Jimmy Page. So I've been trying to mess around with the sound to try and get close to that sort of Jimmy Page sound. And I think I kind of got pretty close. I made a couple of changes in terms of the speaker emulation that I had. Last week I had a different type of speaker. This week I put in a CJ11, and I played around with that. I changed the microphone in front of the speaker to a ribbon mic, and I added a fuzz bender in the signal chain. I think I'm getting pretty close. The fuzz bender, I think, is the What do you guys think? I think the fuzz bender kind of gets you over the top with that sound. I think it's hard to get that Jimmy Page sound without the fuzz bender. I don't know. What do you guys think? There's a couple of questions right off the bat, so I'm going to try and answer them in case you guys have to run. Tony, have you ever left an amp on by accident? I left my Friedman on for 2 days accidentally. I emailed Dave Friedman and he told me I may need new tubes now. I'm such a bonehead. I've done that. I haven't left it on for 2 days, but I've definitely left it on overnight. Honestly, I didn't see much of a difference. Like, honestly, I don't think it'll make that much of a difference if you leave them on. Because I mean, tubes eventually, they're made to be used, and if it's on standby, I don't think anything would happen. I remember once I did that. I had an amp on in the background. I left it on. I didn't know. I came back like the next day, and the room was nice and warm. I'm like, that's weird. And it's like it's the tubes of the amplifier being on overnight that kind of like kept the room warm. So I don't know. I don't think it's an issue, Mark. You're afraid to turn it on again? I don't know. I mean, honestly, I don't think that's a big deal. Um, Anybody else have that issue? Um, I mean, I've done it, Mark. I've done it. I think eventually everybody does it to a certain degree. Was it on standby though, or was it on? I think it might make a difference if it was on standby. All right. So you guys like that sound? Do you think it's close enough? I think maybe the only thing I need to tweak a little bit more is the reverb, because I think Paige used some kind of different type of reverb. Yeah, Mark says the Friedman doesn't have a standby. Is that true? Does mine not have a standby? Which one do you have, Mark? Hold on a second. I'm drawing a blank. Does mine have a standby or not? Yeah, mine has a standby. Yeah, I thought it had a standby. My Dirty Shirley has a standby. I don't know which one you have. Maybe they're not made the same way. D. Smith says, I would think the tubes would be fine unless you have dirty power in the house. What would dirty power do? Why would that be an issue? Shane says, kaboom. I don't think so, man. D. Smith says, my Friedman Jackie Lee doesn't have a standby either. It's weird. I wonder why mine does. And Davis says, I left my tube amp on for a week in the studio. It was okay, surprisingly. I honestly don't think it's going to be an issue. But if Dave says so, you know, he's the man. But I think, I mean, worst comes to worst, play it. If your tubes die, well, then they have to be replaced anyways. If they don't die, it's fine. Do you have a tube tester, Mark? That's something you can do. Just test them. See if there's, you know, if they still test fine, I don't think you're going to have an issue. You can get a tube tester probably off of eBay still. I grabbed mine, which is a vintage tube tester. Still does the job though. I grabbed it a long time ago. It still has that like kind of vintage smell to it. You can smell like the electronics in it for some reason. Seems to work. And I do test my tubes from time to time if I think there's an issue. So you might want to do that. It's a good investment if you have a couple of amps. All right, let's say hi. Let's say hi to everybody that's here today. Jack is here. Hey, Jack, what's happening, dude? Gushman, Vinny, Profile Production. He says he will be playing a Strat today. Which one? Wayne is here. Paul says druggies and guns gone from the condo. What did you do, Paul? How did you get rid of them? That was a continuing saga. For those of you that have been tuning in regularly, you know Paul's been having issues in his condo with some action there. So it seems like it's been resolved. Good, man. I'm happy to hear that. All right. So Dan is here. Vinny, Cushman, David is here. David is here also. Hey, David. Nice to see you, man. Hey, by the way, David, let's try and do this this live session, this guest session, maybe next Sunday. How does that sound for you guys? David, I need to know where you're located because I'm going to try and have you, Shane, and Vinny from Vinny's World join in. And if you guys could tell me where you're located in the world, I'm going to see if I can find a common time slot because I know Shane is all the way in Japan. So it's going to be tricky for him to join in early in the morning. And if we do it later on, he might be at work. So see if I can find a time slot where we can do it. Heck, we might even move it to Saturday. I don't know. We'll see. We'll try and get it coordinated. But Shane, Dave, and David and Vinny's World. You guys got to tell me more or less your time slots. All right, we'll try and get that coordinated. So the Nye is here. Martian Murray. Mark was here. Charlie. Who else? Anybody else that I haven't already said good morning to that I missed? If I missed you guys, sorry. I'm just scrolling really quickly here. Ian's Guitar Shack. Mark says no tube tester here. It was cool how Dave Friedman actually answered the email. Yeah, I contacted Dave too. This is the cool thing about companies like Friedman and companies like Sir, and you get answered by the guys who actually own the company. They'll own the business. And Dave responded to me as well for my Durley Shirley. I had a question about that one too. And yeah, he responded rather quickly too. I'm sure he didn't say you're an idiot. I'm sure he gets those calls all the time. So David, you're in California. I'm going to write this down so I don't forget because I have a short memory. Cali. Shane, we know, is in Japan. And now just Vinny, if we can get Vinny to, I don't know if Vinny is Vinny here? I don't know if he's here today. But I'll try and reach out to Vinny. Should be cool. Should be fun. Davis is looking forward to the guests. Yeah, me too, man. Shane says, do Vinny and David first. Perhaps during winter break is better for me. Shane, if you can join in, that's perfect. That's fantastic. If you can't, then no worries. We'll try and find a time. I'll send you the invite as well. If you want to join in, even if it's just briefly, that'd be cool. Doesn't have to be the whole time we're on. If you can stay in, whatever it is, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever you want. It's up to you. No pressure, dude. Paul says the only bad power for tubes are spikes from the mains. I get a few. My big problem are brownouts where the level on all drop for a day or two. The levels drop. That happens often? Okay. I haven't really experienced problems like that. Hey, Richard, nice to see you, buddy. He's all the way in rainy England. That's cool. I like England. Very nice. What time is it over there? Richard Sally is here, and he's in Red Deer country. Hey, Richard, welcome. A few new faces here. Human Jones just bought a Baja. I say Baja just for fun. Baja. Telecaster this week. Looks like your Telecaster. This is not about. This is also a custom built Telecaster I put together, mainly from Fender parts. So I don't know. First of all, congratulations on your Baja. I think those are really cool. I was actually looking at a few of those when they came out. Some really nice models. So I think you're gonna like that, man. I like to hear you guys buying new stuff. It's really cool because we get to hear firsthand some opinions and reviews and feedback, and that always helps other people perhaps looking at buying the same gear. This guitar is mainly put together from Fender parts. It's almost entirely Fender parts, but I put it together to my liking. So the body is Fender, the neck, the hardware. I think the tuners are not. Tuners are locking tuners. I put some other tuners here. The bridge is not Fender. It's a special type of bridge. The pickups, I think, are Fender. If I'm not mistaken, I think these are, what are they? Tex-Mex pickups, probably, if I remember correctly. So I don't know when a guitar technically is not a Fender anymore. Like if you build your car, for example, you build a Honda, and you build it completely with Honda parts and you put it together yourself, is it still considered a Honda if Honda didn't put it together? So anyways, I consider this almost like a Tony custom build, because it was built to my kind of specs and liking. And I do love this guitar a lot. I like it. It plays really, really well. One of my favorite Telecasters. It's funny how when you put your heart and soul into a guitar build, it always seems to play better. I don't know why that is. Richard says it's 1546. So that's 346. And Shane says it's 2346 here. You guys are confusing me with this 24-hour time. So that's 1146. Okay. Dave is also in Japan. So David's in Japan. So David and Shane are neighbors almost. So I don't know, David. You tell me, man. I think Vinny's going to be okay, but I think you guys are going to be doing the red eye if we do it at the regular time, unless I go a little earlier. Maybe what I'll do is I'll start earlier, but then I don't know how many people will want to get up that early on a Sunday. Unless we do it Saturday. Maybe we do it Saturday evening, Saturday evening my time. That would be, I would have to figure it out. I would have to do the math. You guys make some suggestions. Maybe you guys can tell me what would be the best. Hey, Chris, what's happening? Chris is here from Pennsylvania. Can you share your thoughts about the TC Helicon Voice Live 3 Extreme? Thanks so much, Chris. Chris, I haven't tried that unit, the Voice Live 3, but I did hear some good things about it. I don't usually play around with, hold on. Let me just do a little, just make sure that I am looking at the same information. I don't usually, I don't sing. So for me, I don't necessarily look for something that's like a guitar and a vocal and guitar multi-effects unit. But the Extreme looks really cool because if I'm not mistaken, it also has a looping options built in. So if you're doing any kind of solo performance, it could be a great tool, right? If you're a vocalist and you're playing guitar, you're singing, then you can get like really nice studio grade vocal effects. And I think it also does harmonies. I've always been intrigued by these kind of units because I do like to sing, even though I don't sing very well. It's nice when you're strumming chords and playing like some kind of acoustic guitar to be able to sing along. And I should sing more often, just so I can torture people. No, I'm kidding. Just so I can like get better at it. It looks like it has some really nice features and functions, man, with the looping and the guitar effects chain and all that great stuff. I think people like it. I think the only disadvantage with the unit, and this is just my opinion, is it's probably going to have, if you haven't used a unit like that before, it's probably going to have a little bit of a steep learning curve to it because there's a lot of options in the menu. And if I'm not mistaken, I think it has a screen, but it's not a touch screen. So you have to kind of fiddle around with it. And it's the price, right? Because I think it's almost like it's about $1,000. I don't know. I'm not up to speed on the price of it, but I think it was about $1,000. So if you're, willing to spend that kind of dough, like I would maybe want to spend for a unit like that, maybe like $450, $500. $1,000's a little steep for me, especially in US dollars. Vox says it's 10:47 in Niagara Falls, Ontario. Yeah, almost the same time. Gene says it's Bong 30 in San Francisco. So Ian says, I remember seeing Jimmy Page using a Roland guitar processor in the old guitar magazines. I remember that. Was it the 707? What was that guitar called? I don't remember. I know that Steve Vai, not Steve Vai, sorry, I'm mixing them up. Steve Stevens also used to play one of those. I remember seeing him on the cover of some guitar player magazines with that cool guitar with the bracket, the arm that went from the body to the neck. That was a cool guitar. It's funny how those guitars like didn't really take off all that much. You know, like I keep on saying this, and I don't know if you guys believe me or not, but guitarists are funny because we like new things, but we don't like things that are too new. You know, if it's a throwback to something that already exists and we like, then we kind of embrace it if it's kind of new. But if it's too new, it's like, whoa, this is outside my comfort zone. And those guitars, synth guitars, were pretty cool. Like I remember seeing them, and I never actually played one, but you can do all kinds of stuff. That came out around the time of Miami Vice. And you know why I remember that? I'll tell you in a second. Let me take a sip. You know why I remember that? Because I went to a guitar clinic back in, I don't know, when was Miami Vice popular? Do you guys remember that show? And I went to a guitar clinic. It was a Roland guitar clinic. And they had Ian Hammer there. I don't know if you remember who Ian Hammer is. And he actually was playing that guitar, the Roland guitar synth. And it blew me away because there was, I think, 2 guys or 3 guys there on stage, and they were all playing Roland instruments, including the guitar. And they played like note for note the intro theme song to Miami Vice, and all with the guitar synth. And at one point, they even did the Star Spangled Banner. It was like kind of like the Jimi Hendrix expanded, enhanced version. And he was playing it, and all kinds of effects. You would hear like explosions and planes flying over and all kinds of really cool things, machine guns and all kinds of cool effects, and all coming out of this guitar. It was amazing. So I thought, yeah, this is going to be cool. Everybody's going to be playing one of these. You see Jimmy Page on the cover of the magazine and Steve Stevens and all that kind of stuff. But nope, that didn't happen. It was kind of like a blip. And again, it's weird. Like you have all this new palette of sounds available to you with this guitar, and people didn't want it. I don't know why. Like I say, guitarists, we're a weird bunch. All right, guys, please give me some thumbs up. We got 49 eyeballs or sets of eyeballs, hopefully, on me right now. 17 thumbs up. Please, if you haven't already given me a thumbs up, please do. It always helps. Please don't be shy if you're lurking in the background, and you have to subscribe to be able to chat. Join in on the chat, man. This is why we do this. It's not just to hear me yapping for an hour or so. It's to answer questions. So don't be shy. Any question is a good question. Paul says, Tony, the cops locked the place down for 2 weeks and the customers slowly stopped coming. Just one pleasant old guy and a small dog moved in. He takes the dogs for walks for his high. That's a good story, man. I'm glad the cops finally did intervene, because you don't want somebody, you don't want bad apples taking over your place, That's never good. Thank you for the thumbs up, guys. I see the thumbs up, floating on the screen, which is always nice to see. Thank you. I appreciate that. Human Jones says, hard to find a white Telecaster with a rosewood fretboard. Not many options. That's true, and that's part of the reason why I decided to put mine together. I like the rosewood fretboard. I like to have both, but I think I kind of prefer rosewood for whatever reason. And it's not really a sound thing, because, people say rosewood is a little bit warmer, maybe not as bright as maple, but I don't really, I can't really hear the difference. I think it's more a feel thing for whatever reason, It's kind of like, to me, the rosewood actually feels different. And it's kind of, I know you're going to say that doesn't make any sense because you don't really feel the fretboard, but you do. when you're bending the notes, you feel it. It's more grippy than maple. I don't know if you can hear with this sound. This is still the same sound, by the way. I didn't change it. It gets flubby towards the bass frequencies, and I think that's really cool because that's actually what it does sound like when you're playing through a Supro. Because I used to have a Supro, and it is a little bit more of a darker sounding amplifier, and it breaks up really interesting. It has kind of like that vintage breakup to it, and it does become a little bit flubby. So it's funny that they were able to actually mimic all of that in the FM9, which is pretty cool. I gotta play this FM9 more often, man. It's like so many options in here. Okay, I'm just scrolling here, guys. Let's see. All right, where was I? Shane says the Jays are going into the elimination game with a rookie on the mound. So we have a baseball fan in the house. Let us know what happens, Shane. I'm not a Blue Jays fan, but hey, it's all good. David said 8 p.m. in Montreal is 5 p.m. in California and 9 a.m. in Japan. Yeah, maybe we do that. You guys agree with that time slot? I think that could be cool. 8 p.m. would be good. Not too late. For those of you who want to tune in, I could do 8 p.m. 9 a.m. in Japan. I mean, that's up to you guys, Shane and David. If you can swing 9 a.m. on a Sunday, you let me know. But yeah, I can do that. That sounds good. See, somebody's thinking. David, thank you very much. Let's do that. I'm marking it down for Sunday, 8 p.m. That'll be an evening show. Yeah. All right, cool. Sold. I like that idea. I'm easy like that. Okay. And does anyone make an inexpensive theramine? Theramine? How do you pronounce that? Theramine to mess with. I know what you're talking about, right? The Jimmy Page little antenna. Theramine is that how you come out? I believe there are people that are making some of these. You can still find. Maybe you can find one of the old ones. There was an app actually, which was really cool. It was on your phone, and it would mimic this the theramine, whatever you call it, and you can just play around with. On the screen, there was like effects that you can do just by touching it. It's not like the same real unit that you would buy, but does anybody make them? Repro. Let me see. I'd love to play around with one of those things. If you're looking for a one-to-one remake, they're probably going to be expensive. But maybe there's a company making something cheaper. David says Miami Vice, 1984 for 5 seasons. That's right, 1984. The early 80s, I remember they had started the trend with everybody wearing t-shirts and a jacket on top with no socks and on the shoes. That was a thing back then. I don't know if you remember that, David. I don't know how old you are, but maybe you remember. Does anyone make it? Yeah, so Moog makes one. It's about 500 bucks. It's called the Theramini. So it's a mini version. It's 549 bucks. You can also get the Xylophone Theremin portable synthesizer. And they actually sell this at Long & McQuaid, surprisingly enough, for $199. I don't know what that is though. Huh. That looks cool though. Maybe I should actually pick one up. I'm not sure how it works, but it looks like a radio with a whole bunch of knobs on it. And that's cool. 199 bucks. I might have to try one of those. It says, if I'm reading the description, it says that the xylophone theremin synthesizer has garnered attention for its blend of accessibility and experimental sound capabilities. Musicians appreciate its affordability and portability, though some note limitations in traditional theremin functionality. Okay, that's pretty cool. I'll have to check that out. Maybe I'll catch a YouTube video on that or something. You gave me an itch for something I've never tried before. That could be cool. But I mean, how much use are you going to get out of it though, right? Unless you're playing Led Zeppelin. And even at that, like how much are you going to actually, maybe one song? Chris says 569 new at Guitar Center. Would love to see them send you one for a review. Are we talking about the same thing, Chris? You're talking about the you're still talking about the Voice Live 3 Extreme. That seems a lot cheaper than the price that I saw. I'd be interested in. I'd be very interested in trying one of those. Maybe I can reach out to them and see. Then I'm gonna have to torture you guys with my singing. David says, fun fact: Crockett's black Ferrari was a modified Corvette. So they're lying to us? You mean like at the beginning of the show wasn't actually a Ferrari? Well, it was. If it was a Ferrari, it was probably a very expensive one. So it was a modified Corvette. Huh? It's like a kit car. I did not know that. Interesting. Hey Zach, happy Sunday to you too, man. What's happening? So Vinny says he's in the same time zone as Shane, so whatever works best for him. All right. All right. Like I said, guys, I'll send out the invitations, okay? You guys want to join in? You join in. If you don't want to, for whatever reason, get, cold feet or, it's a bad hair day or whatever it is, and don't worry about it. It's all good. We'll play it, whatever happens, happens. Life unscripted. So Paul says the OPFXS dig deep sub-octave I can't read properly. My eyes are still crooked this morning. Mach 3. It tacks the 3 low strings, giving them monophonic faux bass guitar sound. It sounds totally convincing when sent out to a second amp. That's interesting. I haven't played that much with octavers and stuff like that. You can get some really cool sounds though. David says there's expensive thermines. How do you pronounce it? And cheap ones on Amazon as well. I don't know if I'd love to maybe try one. Maybe I can try one on Amazon or something. That'd be cool. Be fun. I'm gonna try and get one, man. You convinced me to get one. The EBO, Gene's talking about the EBO. I never played around with the EBO. That's something else. Like you can hear like at the beginning of the YouTube song "With or Without You." It basically makes the strings vibrate, so it sounds like almost like a violin bow, but it's a little device. I think there's a magnet in it or some kind of a small motor or something that basically causes some vibration, so the strings vibrate and they make sounds. That's something else I never actually played around with. So there's a lot of stuff I got to check out. If you're looking at getting some unique sounds, that's two very definite ways of experimenting, not to mention the violin bow. David says Thurman ended up moving back to Russia and helping them spy on the US. Did they now? So maybe I shouldn't get one. Interesting. David says the stylophone Thurman only has one antenna. Does that make a big difference? Maybe I guess it's a limitation in the sounds you can get out of it. Yeah, of course. Didn't they use the Thurman on Good Vibrations? Sounds like it. I'm not sure if it was that though. So Human Jones says my Baja Telecaster came with a Powell Ferro fretboard, and I'll be sending it back in exchange. Sending it back in exchange for the Rosewood model. That being said, the Powell Ferro feels really good though. So, do they allow you to do that? You can send it back. You can exchange it for the Rosewood model. Okay. So you're not going to just send back the neck. You're sending back the whole guitar. Is that right? I would agree with you. I'm not a huge fan of the Powell Ferro fretboards. It depends though, because I've seen some that are pretty good. And when I say good, I mean the coloration is uniform. And then I've seen some that look terrible. Some of them just look like dried out rosewood. So I would agree, if you can probably get a rosewood one, I would probably prefer that. So David said, are we going to use Zoom or something else? I'm going to send you a link. I don't use Zoom. I use a program called Ecamm Live. So the way it works, Dave, is very simple. I'm going to send you a guest code, and you could log in with that guest code. Very simple. You don't have to have Zoom or anything. It'll open up a window on your side, and you'll be able to join in. Hey Rico, what's happening? How are things in Oregon? Jean-Pierre is here. And he says, yes, it was. So Jean-Pierre, he knows a lot about the Beach Boys. I think that's what you're referring to when you say yes, it was. The Thurman. Sounds like it. The beginning, a good vibration. The spooky part. Sounds like a little Halloween horror movie, with the ooh, that part. So I have to say congratulations to JP as well, because Jean-Pierre is a proud owner of a new guitar. Right, JP? I saw a photo of a brand new acoustic guitar. Well, brand new. A vintage brand new acoustic guitar that he just got. And it makes me happy to hear this because, Jean-Pierre hasn't touched a guitar in I don't know how many years, Jean-Pierre? And he just recently decided to pull the trigger on a really nice acoustic guitar. And I'm very interested in seeing this guitar live eventually. Try and see if we can make that happen. So he's a new member of the guitar playing society here. So we should congratulate JP for doing that. I think you're going to have a lot of fun with the guitar, man. And like I said in my message, get ready, start choosing your next one, because you're not going to stop at one. I'm pretty sure about that. So congrats. Vox says, my Telecaster has a rosewood board. It's warmer than you would expect from a Telecaster. So perhaps there is some difference in tone, but it's going to be, I don't know how much you're actually going to be able to hear it. I think it's more of a feel thing. Vinny says, I always wondered why Fender didn't pair lighter Powell Ferro with rosewood maple. That way it would look a bit more uniform. I don't know either. And I think there was a period when there was issues with getting the rosewood. I remember Gibson was also doing that, and Fender was doing that. But I don't think that's an issue anymore, or am I mistaken? Because I see rosewood boards on guitars now, usually, like regularly. So JP says it's a Norman B20, and I don't know if you guys. I mean, it's a well-known brand. I think it's more popular here in Canada. JP, do you know the date of the guitar, the age of the guitar? Because I know it's not a new guitar. JP says, we're not all sick puppies like you, Tony. One guitar is plenty for me now. I'm offended. Sick puppy? Are you calling me and everyone else here a sick puppy? I'm not the only one. If I am a sick puppy, I'm in good company, that's for sure. You'll see. I'm laughing because you'll see. You'll see. Fender discontinued the Baja. When did they do that? So JP says he only played guitar once since 1967. So you're definitely due, man. That's 2 years before I was born, JP. So you're due. You're definitely due. So Vox says he has a Norman B70. It was made before the fire. Which fire now? I don't have like all the details on the Norman history. I know it originates in Quebec, in Canada. It was founded in 1968, I believe, by a fellow named Norman Boucher, which I think is also still making the Boucher brand. You know, and I think it was purchased or taken over by the Godin family of companies. So Norman now is basically somehow related to Godin. And they always had some, you know, they always, that particular guitar always was considered well built. And the B20 is kind of like the mid-tier for Dreadnought acoustics, mid-tier, you know, like the middle ground. So I guess I'm gonna have to change the name of the show to the sick puppy show instead of the addicted to gear show, because we're sick puppies addicted to gear. Jack says, I guess I'm a sick puppy too, just like you. And Davis says, sick puppy here too. Cushman too. So there's quite a few sick puppies. We're in good company, like I said. So D. Smith says the Baja was discontinued in 2018. I still think those are really cool guitars. Well worth the money. Davis, didn't SRV's number one have a Powell Ferro board before it was widely used? I believe it did. I remember when the SRV versions, like I'm not talking about Stevie's guitar. I'm not talking about Stevie's actual guitar. I'm talking about the reproduction models that Fender put out. I'm pretty sure those were all already Powell Ferro boards, if I remember correctly. Chris says that instrument on Good Vibrations and Radiohead's national anthem is an how do you pronounce that? Ondes Martenot, not a theremin. Theremin. Thank you for that, Chris. So now I know how it's pronounced. Theremin. Yeah, there we go. So we have a connoisseur here. I don't even know what the Ondes Martenot is. I'll have to look that up. JP says it's got steel strings. Yeah. What did you expect? When you say steel, JP, I don't know if you're talking the same thing. You mean they're not brass for an acoustic guitar? They're like the same steel strings like an electric guitar? Bronze. Sometimes they use bronze strings for acoustic, different things. Well, like I said to you in over our text message, probably the first thing you're going to want to do with that guitar is give it a little TLC, give it a once over. It probably will require a neck adjustment if wherever you got it from wasn't necessarily taking care of it much. The neck might need to be adjusted, hydrated, probably cleaned, frets maybe polished, and strings. Perhaps a new set of strings would be a worthwhile investment, and then it'll be good to go. Vinny says we should call it Tony's Puppy Asylum. So now there's a little counter argument here. JP says to Chris, no, it was not Ons Martinot, but a theremin. You guys fight it out. I don't know. If I look it up, I'll tell you. I'll see if I can find out the answer. Okay, here let me put the mystery to rest. What was used by the Beach Boys in the song Good Vibrations to generate the, what kind of sound do we call that? The kind of like a, let's see if AI can answer the question. There we go. So here it says, and I quote, and maybe it's wrong, but this is what I'm reading here. It says the unique wavy electronic sound at the beginning and throughout the Beach Boys' 1966 hit Good Vibrations was created by a theremin, as many believe, but excuse me. It was not created by a theremin, as many believe, but by a related instrument called a phanerin, also known as electrotheremin. So you guys are both wrong. Apparently, the inventor was Paul Tanner, and the designer builder was Bob Whitesell, and it was built in 1958. It says, unlike the traditional theremin, which uses two antennas that you play without touching, the electrotheremin uses a mechanical control system. The player moved a slider along to marked pitch scale that was mechanically connected to a variable resistor or a pot, and this setup produced a continuous gliding tone like a theremin, but with far greater pitch accuracy and control. That makes sense, because how do you get it? Like a theremin is kind of like, it's just sound waves and you're interfering with the sound waves with your hands. So you kind of don't know what you're going to get, right? With this, it makes sense because they're playing a specific sequence of notes, and you want to hit the pitches exactly. So that's going to be super hard to do with a theremin. So that makes total sense. Let me see what else they say here. Okay, well that's that. Chris says look up Radiohead's national anthem. Okay. See what it says about that. I'm learning something new here. Yes, okay, so they do mention in that song that the guitarist did use an Ons Martenot, a rare early electronic instrument from the 1920s on Kid A, especially on How to Disappear Completely, the national anthem, and um, Idiotech. So it says that the Ons had similar to the theremin, but controlled by a ring and wire system for precise intonation. It was used subtly in the national anthem to add eerie upper textures behind the horn section. So yeah, you're right. They did use this tool, this instrument, this effect, but it doesn't say anything about the Beach Boys using it. So we learned something new here, boys. See that? We do our research here. We don't spread false rumors. Okay, so let's put that to rest. Jean-Pierre says nylon strings. What are you talking about, JP? It wouldn't have nylon strings. Why would your guitar have nylon strings? It's not a classical guitar. Am I missing something here, man? So we have a question. Profile Productions wants to know, new guitar for me, a Yngwie Malmsteen Stratocaster scallop fretboard with piezo 2006. Is this your first guitar with scalloped frets, fretboard? Interesting. You got to let me know how you feel about that, because I haven't played a completely scalloped neck like that one on the Yngwie Strat. I have played partially scalloped frets like on the Gem guitars, where they only scallop the upper registry of the fretboard here. It's a weird feeling, and it's easy to bend those notes out of tune if you press too hard. So you really have to work on your touch and be able to not press hard very much. And I do press hard when I play. That's something I got to work on. Some people say that you have to almost practice like fretting a note the lightest possible. You know, like fret it just till you don't hear any buzz and then stop. And that should be the amount of pressure you put on the strings. I find that extremely hard to do. When I get excited, I press down hard. And I pick hard too. So somebody mentioned Ace Frehley. Yeah, we have to mention Ace Frehley, right? We of course, Ace passed away just a few days ago. So that was sad to hear. Davis says, in 1976, Ace inspired me to buy my first electric guitar. A day after seeing him perform, I was 14, still rocking at 63. You know, you can say what you want about Kiss, right? And you know, a lot of people make fun of Kiss. They're like, it's not really a band, and you know, it's more of a show, a performance, and yada yada. But they did inspire a lot of people to play. And you know, the whole persona of these rock stars from outer space, if you want to call them that, you know, with the boots and the smoke and the flashy guitars and all that craziness, made a lot of young kids especially pay attention and start, you know, gravitating towards rock and roll. And I think they did inspire a lot of people to become musicians in one way or another. I was never a huge fan of Kiss. I didn't really get into all of that flamboyant, showbiz type performance rock, if you want to call it that. But I do remember watching probably the cheesiest movie I've ever seen. I believe it was called The Phantom of the. Come on, guys. The Phantom of the something or other. I don't even remember the title. Phantom of the Park or something like that, where they had to go into this theme park and I don't know, find a phantom. I don't even remember the story completely, but I remember there was cheesy effects and it was a low budget film. And but as a young kid, I thought it was cool. I don't know how old I was at that time, but Phantom of the Park, right? Cushman, is that the name? Anyway, so yeah, so Ace put in his time and hard work. His real name was Paul Daniel. He was born in 1951 in the Bronx. You can tell by he had a pretty obvious accent when he spoke. And he joined Kiss in 1972, I think it was, after he answered an ad by Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley seeking a lead guitarist with flash and attitude. And I think that was probably the most important day of his life. Changed everything for him. It says, Jeff says, Kiss got accused of using backing tracks on stage and lip syncing, but oh well, whatever. I mean, yeah, okay, but it's a show, man. You know, like that's a show. You know what I mean? I don't think you go to see Kiss. Well, maybe you do, but I think people that go to see Kiss don't really care. It's more about the show than, you know, any individual's performance kind of thing. So I'm not sure exactly how he died. I heard it was he kind of fell and then had some kind of like internal bleeding. Maybe he hit his head or something like that. So that's sad, you know. But what are you gonna do, man? They're dropping like flies. He's now playing with Ozzy, probably somewhere up there. And by the way, Jeff, you know, Kiss is not the only one that got accused of using backing tracks. You know, we all know that Motley Crue has, and maybe even Guns N' Roses. I don't know. There's a lot of bands that are doing that now. Even ZZ Top, you know, with the singing. I saw a couple of videos of it was pretty obvious that Billy Gibbons wasn't necessarily singing those songs. Danielle says, Fran Tone Pedals plays with a Korg Touch electronic sound device during her Sunday noon Eastern Fran Lab YouTube live stream. Fills dead air while reading a viewer comment. So that's a pitch for Fran Tone. I don't know them. I don't know the YouTube channel. Interesting. I'll check it out. Shane says, if you're pressing too hard, you're doing it wrong. Hey, man, it all depends what you're into. And Jeff also says, Buckethead has this sound effect installed on his white Les Paul Jr. that is wild sounding. I've seen some people using this thing where it's actually a little plate that they install here. And while you're playing the guitar, you can actually move it around, or like put your finger on it, and it changes the sound and pitch right on your guitar. Kind of like a theremin, but not really. I did not hear about Limp Bizkit's bass player passing away, Jack. No. Is that a fact? Another one bites the dust? Man, what's happening? Sad news, but what are you going to do? That's the sad part of life, unfortunately, man. We're only here for a little while and nobody gets an encore. So make it last. Jean-Pierre says, steel strings do not get used too much. Do you have to change them once in a while? Yeah. So JP, just so you know, okay, even if you don't use your strings and it's sitting on a guitar for a long time, they get tarnished. And when they get tarnished, they end up sounding like rubber bands. They lose all that high-end sparkle and the low-end thump, and they don't sound great. So if the strings on your guitar have been on that guitar for a long time, I'd change them. It's going to be the best, $12 you're going to spend on that guitar for sure. Never be afraid to change guitar strings. Shane says you got to be careful when you're old and you fall. Makes a heart attack more likely. That is how my father died. Really? Man. You're scaring me now. Got to be careful with everything, man. Anyways, the way I look at it, Shane, when your number's up, dude. You could be in bed sleeping, you could be, you can trip and fall off the sidewalk, when it's time, the only thing missing is the excuse, but it is what it is. Paul says the Frantone fuzz pedals are killer. It says Fran used to work side by side with Les Paul. And Vox says a Stones t-shirt with a Telecaster that has 6 strings. Something doesn't compute. You're right. I should take off the low E string, right? Oh. David said, "Oh yeah, the Monson, the Monson guitars with the XY pad on it. Matt Bellamy from Muse uses those. Yeah, a few people that I know had that on their guitars. It was popular for 15 minutes. Manson. I said Monson too. I was reading your. We're gonna have a lot to talk about, David. You seem very very tuned in to a lot of guitar related topics, so I think it'll be fun. Ian said other bass player died, John Lodge of the Moody Blues. This is turning into like a sad show when we're talking more about people that have passed away than guitars and gear. What's going on, dude? Let's uplift this show. Think about living. Jeff says, are you also live on TikTok? No, I never really got into TikTok, guys. To be honest, even Instagram, I don't really do much besides YouTube, and that's it's probably why a lot less people know about the channel. But I kind of like it that way. I like it when it becomes more personal and not necessarily gets overblown. I do this because I love it, not because I have to do it. So I like to be, a smaller group is more manageable. It's more fun, more personal. So that's how I look at it. Yeah, no more obituaries. It's enough of that. So what else was? Let's talk about some some interesting new releases. I know that Strymon released something called the Oil Can Echo, which is kind of weird to me. I think the idea there was that they wanted to kind of reproduce that swirling sound, the swirling echoes that you would get from these vintage oil can delay units. I don't know if you've ever tried one of those, but uh, it's interesting. But I don't think I'd be interested in necessarily getting one of those. The Strymon stuff is great though, like in terms of reverbs, and some of the delay units that they have are really really good. Expensive but good. But I don't think I'm really going to be in the market for the oil can delay. It's about $259. But I don't know if any of you are experimenting with those kind of sounds or whatever, But there is a poll question, guys. And the reason I also asked that poll question was because you guys, I don't know if you guys saw the video that I made regarding Rush and the fact that they got a new drummer now and they're going to be, touring again and all this. There's a lot of buzz around that reunion because a lot of people felt like Rush was never going to get back together again, but they are, and they have a new drummer. But now the rumors are that the tickets are selling for, obscene amounts of money. And I kind of understand that. I kind of expected that to happen because, look, the band hasn't toured in a long time. It was a done deal. Now they're coming back. They have a new drummer. Of course, it's going to cause pandemonium amongst the Rush fans out there. And everybody's going to want to go see them. It's like, for me, I really like Rush. I'm not going to run to see them again. If I get an opportunity, I will. But, if it was Led Zeppelin for me and they were getting back together again, and probably for the last time ever, I'd probably be willing to spend quite a bit of money to go see them. And so now, of course, the ticket prices are crazy, and people are complaining. But I think it's normal. I think, what did you expect, right? So the poll question that I had out today was specifically around that topic. And the question was, what would be the max that you would pay to see your favorite artist perform live if the show was potentially their last one? So I don't know how many of you out there are specifically Rush fans. I'm a Rush fan. I wouldn't say they're my all-time favorite, but they're up there in terms of great bands. And so the question was, how much would you be willing to pay? And we might as well answer the question right now because we're talking about it. So the options were, would you be willing to pay $300, $600, $1,000, or $2,000 or more? Now, $2,000 seems like it could be a lot of money, but honestly, like Taylor Swift tickets and Lady Gaga tickets probably sell for more than that on a regular basis. So is it really? I mean, it seems like a lot of money to me. I wouldn't be willing to pay that kind of dough for anyone, but some people would. What would be your psychological limit? I'm interested in, understanding where you guys fit in on all of this. So I'll read the answers, okay? I'll read what we have so far. I'll go from the lowest to the most popular. So the lowest obviously is the most expensive. I said 2,000 or more. Only 4% of you said they'd be willing to pay $2,000 or more. So some of you guys are well off if you're willing to spend $2,000 to go see a show. Excuse me. That's a little bit too expensive, too rich for my blood. Jack is a Rush fan, he says. Jack, how much would you be willing to pay? Are you going to see Rush? And if so, what's your cutoff? Not to put you on the spot or anything, Jack, just asking. So 4% of you said 2,000 or more. 8% of you said 1,000. $1,000, yeah, expensive. 17% said 600 and 71% said 300. Like, if it was me, I don't think I would pay that kind of money to go see Rush. I've seen Rush before. I'm happy that I saw them as a complete unit when Neil Peart was still alive, and I got to see them a couple of times. So I'm good. I'm good. Um, nowadays with everything being on the internet, I'm sure that we'll get to see those concerts almost completely, and probably in high definition, as soon as they put on their first show on YouTube. You know, so like, why would I want to spend that kind of dough? I don't think so. Now, if it was Led Zeppelin, for example, I've never seen Led Zeppelin. I'd love to see them. But mind you, I'm talking Led Zeppelin in their heyday, maybe as a complete unit with John Bonham and everybody. I would have paid probably some good money to see them. I never did, you know? But I probably even that, probably limited to like $600, max 800 if I was really desperate. But this is just because knowing what I know now, like I'm never going to get that opportunity. So I'd be willing to put in the cash. But, back then, probably not. Gene says the most I've ever spent on a concert was $30 to see the Stones, Guns N' Roses, and Living Color. $30 is a deal, man. You can't do anything for. I can't even go to McDonald's and get like 2 burgers for $30. So gone are those days. Steven says, I'm a Rush fan, but I'm also old enough to remember seeing great bands for $5. I'll wait for the video. Yeah, man, me too. Dan says, I saw Rush twice. And Jack says, I'd have to say $1,000. $1,000. He's ready to dish $1,000. Hey, Jack, you can buy a nice guitar for $1,000 though, eh? Think about it. But I understand that if you're a true Rush fan, I get it. I get it. Ian says Rush is adding a keyboard player also. Yes, that is correct. I did read that also. Seems like they're giving Alex and Geddy a little bit more room, maybe to have a bit more fun on stage, less pressure, that kind of thing. But why not? They should have done it a long time ago. Dan says moving pictures tour. Yeah. Zach says too expensive for tickets these days. Zach, it's too expensive for everything these days, man. I ordered a pizza the other day. Extra large, all dressed. Cost me, I think, almost $50. When did that happen? When did like an extra large pizza become $50? Crazy, but it is. Eddie says I just spent $3,000 on a dentist bill. I was like, damn, I could have seen a Rush show. $3,000, you could have bought a Les Paul. Just saying. Screw the teeth. You don't need them. Put your priorities in order. Guitars first, teeth later, dental hygiene later. Am I the only one who thinks that way? My brain works that way, guys. I hate to say. Whenever I got to spend cash on anything that's not gear related, I always think of what I could have bought in terms of gear for the same amount of money. I had to change my hot water tank at one point, which was very expensive. And I'm like, damn, I could have bought a Les Paul. Shane said, my stepbrother had a choice to see Kiss in Vancouver, Led Zeppelin in Seattle. He went to the Kiss show. Idiot. Shane, I hope your brother-in-law doesn't watch the show, because, you wouldn't want to start a family spat, but I kind of agree with you. I'll say that very quietly. Tony, the new release this week is the OPFX Dig Deep Sub-Octave M Mark III. When you pluck a note on your low E, A, or D, it plays a faux bass guitar note. Sounds like a duo is playing. Yeah, that's what you were mentioning up above. Jeff says, I asked Ernie Cunningham of Body Count. I said, man, you're good. And I said, your playing is awesome. How did you get that good? He said one word, practice. And I said, exactly. That is exactly true, Jeff. There's no shortcuts, man. If you're not good, or if you're not as good as you want to be, there's only one remedy. That's practice. And I know it. I know I can use way more practice. I don't touch the guitar enough, unfortunately. And when I do, I mostly noodle and play around with stuff. So it doesn't really count as practice. But yeah, that's the only excuse if you're not a good guitarist. Just practice, man. It takes time. And unfortunately, a lot of people get impatient, especially the new generation. They want to know, you give them a guitar, they're like, why can't I play this thing? It's like, no, if I can't already play it, I don't want to spend the time to learn it. Eddie says, I saw the Moving Pictures tour for $14. I've seen Rush 5 times. They were great every time. Absolutely solid, Eddie. I agree. Every time I've seen them too, they were fantastic. I enjoyed every show. I don't think they ever really had a performance that was like meh. I think they genuinely enjoyed playing, and when they did play, they put 110% into it. Wayne says, I just paid 13 grand to get false teeth. Dental hygiene is no joke. How do we get onto this topic? Man, 13 grand, dude. That's a custom shop. You can get yourself a nice Murphy's Lab custom shop guitar for about 13 grand, probably. Or maybe one of those beautiful PRS private stock guitars, Chris says, I was a senior in high school when Zeppelin announced an American tour to support the In Through the Outdoor album. The buzz was building. Tickets were about to go on sale. Then Bonzo died. That was just then, huh? I had that album, In Through the Outdoor. It didn't do as well as the other albums did. I don't know if the buzz was cut short because of Bonzo's death, but I always liked that album, and I always had like an air to it, Richard says, part of the joy of playing guitar is practicing and finding out how sounds and melodies are created, but it takes time. Yeah, for sure. And, music is one of those things where, at first it's a mystery. You start playing guitar, you're like, how does everything work? How do I get this thing to sound good? Where do my fingers need to go? And then slowly, it's like an onion. You peel back the layers and like, oh, those are the notes on the fretboard. Oh, those are the scales. That's how you build a chord based on the notes on the fretboard and the scales. Oh, that's the relationship between the chords and the notes and the scales. And then they're like, oh, these are the scales that exist, and these are how they, how I can put them together and make something sound happy, make something sound sad, add a little more tension and release to the music, and all that great stuff. And of course, then there's technique, and that's why I think I've stuck with playing guitar for so long, even though I'm far from being, an excellent guitarist. I'm more of a hacker than anything else, but I've stuck with it because it's always intrigued me as an instrument. It's the type of thing where it takes a lifetime to master. I honestly don't think that there's a point in anyone's life, even if you're an amazing guitarist, where you're like, I'm done. I know it all. There's nothing else. I've reached the last page in the book when it comes to learning how to play guitar or becoming better, or experimenting or whatever. I don't think you ever get to that stage. I don't think I don't think it's even a possibility, because look at it this way, right? Look at the combination of notes on your fretboard. Okay, think of how many notes are on a fretboard. Okay, in an octave or whatever. Like if I can put it to you this way, if you take a deck of cards, okay, there's 52 cards in a deck. If you take those and you shuffle those cards and you shuffle them perfectly, what I mean by shuffling perfectly is like, there's no doubles, right? You shuffle them perfectly every time. You will never have the same combination of cards. If you lay them all out, you can look at the combination of cards. You will never see the same combination twice in history. I'm not talking even in your lifetime. I'm just talking about ever. You will not see the same combination pop up twice. It's never going to happen. It's the same idea with music and note combinations and melody combinations, chord structures, and you can basically go on and on. Human Jones says, just found your Olympic white Telecaster build videos. Yeah, this guy. Through your channel. I'll be sure to watch those. Yeah, man, take a look. Take a look. That's why I put them there. I like sharing all that stuff. I don't know how many years it's been. I would have to go back and take a look at the date on that video. I honestly lose track of time, guys, in terms of when I've built things. If you can, Human Jones, if you can tell me that what date that was, that would ring a bell at least. David says, I saw Robert Plant solo with the Black Crowes opening. First time I ever smelled Mary Jane. Really? Yeah, man, I remember the early concerts. That's all you would smell. They didn't have to pipe in the dry ice in those days because there was so many people smoking that you had that dry ice effect anyway. Now it's weird when I go to a concert because I can see clearly all the way to the stage. Even if you're all the way in the back, where in the old days that didn't happen very much. Let's see here. Hey, Rich. Good morning from Minnesota. Do you have any original music posted online or audio of you playing? Would love to hear it. There is, yeah, not originals. If you go into my channel, well, I do play on some video reviews and all that kind of stuff here and there. I think there's also a video still up of me playing a show with the band. I think we were. I don't remember the song that we played on that one. Maybe The Cult. I don't remember, but it's there. That was a show that we had done during COVID. Actually, that was a weird time, very weird time. But we played a show. I guess even though we weren't supposed to, and it was a good turnout. A lot of people had fun. Jeff says the song Soothsayer by Buckethead blew my mind, and it made many of us say we may as well put our guitars down, but we didn't. Being upset and jealous isn't the answer, but my God, the comments. Well, first of all, it's easy to use that kind of thought process when you see somebody better than you, right? You can definitely say, man, I'll never get that good. This guy's talented, natural talent. You can definitely say that. Or you can say, man, if he can do it, why wouldn't I be able to do it? And you could draw inspiration from it, But like I said earlier in the show, it boils down to practice. If the guy's playing that well, he put in the blood, sweat, and tears to get that good, and he deserves it. I've seen a lot of players that are mind-blowingly good and are so young. And it seems like they're getting younger and younger every day, especially now that you can see them on Instagram and YouTube and all these places. Kids that are amazing. And I'm like, how did these guys get so good so quick? there's definitely something to be said about natural talent. And I believe that that is definitely a thing. You know, you get people that are, for example, very good at painting and art and sculpting and mathematics and some things that I was never good at. You know, like I don't like math, um, and I'm not that good at math. But there's people out there that are amazing at math, and some of them are like, you know, 3 feet nothing high children that could blow you away. You know, so it's something that is maybe not necessarily learned. Like you have to have some kind of a talent to begin with, and then you build on that talent. You know. Shane says, Tony, where do you buy Strat replacement nuts? You can buy them in a lot of different places. You can get them off. You can get them off eBay. You can get them off Amazon. It depends if you want to have the ones that are bone, or you want to have graft tech. Do you want to have plastic? You want to have some that already have the slots in them? I usually buy the blanks. I don't buy pre-cut. I like forming my own so I can actually get it to the right radius and the right depth and everything. So I'll buy a bone blank. And I can get them off of Amazon, for example. You can usually buy them in sets of 3 or 4. And then I'll shape them and fit them to my guitar. That's how I like to do them. You can also get them from, you know, part suppliers. You can get them off, for example, Tone Ninja sells them. If you want to have the ones that are like drop-in replacements, you can get them from various places. You can buy them straight from Fender if you want. Is it an actual Strat, like an actual Fender Strat, or a knockoff, or what is it? In Canada, I can get them from Solo Music. They also sell them. Stu Mac also sells them. You can get them everywhere. Eddie says, I've been practicing half hour to 45 minutes every morning before work, and my playing has exploded, as opposed to 4 to 5 hours on the weekends. Honestly, I think you're onto something, Eddie. I do believe, and I think you're bang on this. I think you learn more. This is just my theory, but I think you learn more if you practice more often for less time than if you practice for more time less often. I think something magical happens in your brain. I know when I'm trying to learn a song, and I've said this many times on the show before, when I'm trying to learn a song, okay, and I'm trying to learn a solo or something like that, mostly the solos, and it's challenging. If I try to learn it all in one sitting, it never happens, and it's much more difficult. If I break it down into small chunks and practice, let's say, the first part, you know, first couple of bars for a couple of days, and then take a break, come back to it. To me, it seems like during the time that I'm not playing, the in-between days, it's like my brain does a defrag. I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember defrag that you would have to do on your computer system, on your hard drive, where basically it puts everything, all the ones and zeros, back in order to save space on your hard drive, because it gets fragmented when you erase things, erase data, so it wasn't working efficiently. It's almost like that happens in your brain when you sleep at night, because the next day it seems like everything's easier. It's like your brain had time to think about it and practice it while you were sleeping, and then you come back to it, and it's really a lot easier. That's something that I noticed over and over again. So that's my theory, and I'm sticking with it. Zach says, for me, I never took guitar lessons. I learned how to play from watching instructional videotapes and also watching good guitar players and surrounding myself with ... with musicians. Probably the best way to learn is to jump in with the sharks. And, you know, if you have an opportunity to play with a band, and, you know, they're willing to take you in, even though you're maybe not up to par, that's probably the best way of learning, because then you have no choice. You got to start playing better. You know, if you're doing a show or a performance or a rehearsal, you got to practice, and you got to show up with the goods, or else you get the stink eye from the rest of the bandmates. So that's probably the best way. But today we're spoiled with all the good stuff that we have on YouTube. I mean, you can easily search and find basically anything. And you can search for a song or a solo and you can find, 5 different ways to play that song. 5 different people trying to show you different ways of learning how to play that song too. So there's really no excuse not to know. It's just a question of practice again. Exactly. Richard, you took the words right out of my mouth, right? Matteo Mancuso is blowing my socks off. And I started talking about him even before he exploded. And I think now he's kind of like a household name when it comes to guitarists. You're exactly right. You think you've seen it all, right? Then this guy comes out of nowhere, relatively young, unknown guy who was sitting in his bedroom maybe just 2 years ago, 3 years ago, playing guitar. Now he's playing with the greats. He's playing with Al Di Meola. I've seen him playing with Steve Vai. I've seen him playing with Tommy Emmanuel. All these mind-blowingly great guitarists, and he's right up there with them, just like that. The power of YouTube is amazing. Shane says Eddie and Ingwe both practiced 12 hours a day and slept with their guitars. Yeah. I'm sure they probably did, man. And the thing is, I don't think it was like a chore. I think they did it because they wanted. They couldn't get enough. Shane says it's hard to find any plastic nuts. Why do you want plastic? Don't go plastic. Go bone or graphite, Graphtec. Even if it's a knockoff, Shane, I would go something better. David said one thing that helped me help my playing level up was chromatic exercises and scales. Yeah, if you're talking about, are you talking about just memorizing the fretboard, David, or you're talking about like just finger exercises or dexterity, that kind of thing? Hey, Full Drive, what's up? Thank you for joining us. Eddie says, agree 100%, Tony. Also, my fingers never have to warm up. They're just ready to go. That's the other thing, is that when you haven't touched your guitar in a while, the fingers just don't want to cooperate, Some days it seems like it just flows. It's like you open the pipe and the water just flows and you're able to play and you're in the pocket. And other days it's like the mind-hand connection is just not there. It's like your brain is telling your hands what to do, but your hands are just not cooperating. Paul says mathematically every melody was used up by the mid-80s. Stromberg was only out by a year when he figured it out in the 1920s. I don't know about that. I'm not sure. You can play the same note, one note, in so many different ways. So maybe you're playing the same note, but probably not playing it the same way. Casey Lee says, I've been a Tommy Emmanuel since the 80s. Really? I didn't know that. You became Tommy Emmanuel? I know what you're saying. You're a Tommy Emmanuel fan since the 80s when I saw him play with Chet Atkins on Nashville Now TV show. I didn't catch him on that, but I did see him a couple of times. And every time I see him, he's mind-boggling. He boggles the mind in terms of how well he plays. And it's funny because if you've been to a Tommy Emmanuel concert or show, he basically is there up by himself, sitting there with his acoustic guitar, and that's it. And he does his thing, and he keeps you on the edge of your seat. And it's funny because he was telling the story, right, of how he started to play guitar, and he comes from Australia, and it was basically like, if you play, you get to eat. If you don't play, you don't get to eat. And he started playing in bars and stuff. when he was a kid, and he's been playing ever since. And it was just a question of survival, at that stage in his life. And I guess it was just second nature after a while. It's like, if you want to eat, you want to live, you got to play. So not playing wasn't an option. And he tells the story really nicely during his concerts. Eddie says, Tony, guys, ever use a wah or volume pedal? It's a learning curve for me. I've used both, yes, volume and wah. I don't use it very much. If I use a volume pedal, it's more out of convenience. If you're playing, you have a pedal board, you're playing a live gig or a rehearsal, it's nice to have the volume pedal at your disposal, because sometimes during a solo, it's hard to hear yourself, and you need that extra little bit, and you can adjust the volume without necessarily. You can always do it here, but sometimes it's good to be able to do it with your foot. And as far as wah goes, I do have a wah pedal. I've had a few, and I still have one now. I don't use it very often. It's usually a pain to lug around. It's actually big and heavy, and sometimes I prefer not to have the wah pedal. But for certain songs, it definitely comes in handy, especially if you're playing Led Zeppelin. The wah was used in many songs. It's always fun to throw in a little bit of wah when you're doing a solo. Makes it more fun. So yeah, I recommend using one. I've tried Vox. I've tried a couple of different ones. The Vox was one of my favorites. Now I have another one. It's called a Mic Wah. It's a modified wah pedal. Sounds great. I think I might have made a video of that at some point. I'm not really sure. Vox says, during the song Remains the Same, I noticed that's a weird spot for wah in a song. Then saw Jimmy Page talk about how the cameraman was walking on his wah pedal while trying to film. That's a funny story. I didn't hear that story before. Is that actually a fact? So the cameraman was accidentally throwing in some wah. Where is that? Where is that in the song Remains the Same? I remember I watched that movie so many times when I was young, but I don't remember catching that. I love those funny stories when it comes to like Led Zeppelin and all the stuff that you catch on the songs that are not supposed to be there, like John Bonham's squeaky bass drum pedal that you can clearly hear the beginning when they would and back in the day when they would have limited tracks, they would record something and then erase it and then record something else. So if, let's say, there was a vocal track and then they decided that they needed to put a guitar there instead, so they would record over the track. And there's a couple of places in Led Zeppelin music where you hear the ghost track, which is the track that got erased. You can still hear like Robert Plant's voice coming in before the actual recording that hasn't been erased comes in, and it makes a really cool effect. You hear that a couple of times. You hear, coughs, and you hear airplanes flying over and all kinds of interesting things. And I love that about the old music, because it wasn't perfect, but it made it a lot more interesting to listen to. So for me, I always enjoy those little like Easter eggs that are in there. Chris says, or plug the cables in reverse to get the whale sounds on Echoes by Floyd. All those happy accidents are what really makes things really cool and fun. Human Jones says, your Olympic white Telecaster build video was 8 years ago. Man, already. Damn. It feels like yesterday. I think I have the the noise gate a little bit too aggressive on this sound. It cuts in a little bit. Shane, sweet dreams, man. Hope you have some nice guitar dreams. Don't have any nightmares. And looking forward to chatting with you if you feel like you're up for it. All right? Take it easy, man. Casey Lee says, I use a volume pedal mostly on humbucker single coil guitars to set a minimum and maximum to fix the difference in output between a single coil and a humbucker. Yeah, they're very practical for many different things. Generally, you have three kind of effects, right? You have volume, wah, and you can also use another pedal as an expression pedal. If you're using something like the FM9, for example, you can assign any kind of parameter to that expression pedal. So you can actually, for example, change the delay time of your effect with the pedal on the fly, for example. Or you can add more drive, less drive. Or you can, swell your reverbs or something like that. So, putting those three pedals together, volume, just a regular wah, and some kind of expression pedal, opens up a whole world of like extra flavors that you can play around with. Rick says, Tony, what's crappening? Are you doing a Halloween show? You could dress up as Count Floyd from SCTV. I remember him. I remember Count Floyd. He was funny. I think, I don't think it was SCTV though, but one of my favorite characters was Father Frank Sarducci. Do you remember him? He was on a show. I don't know if it was SCTV. Probably was. He used to be a priest that would come on and smoke, and he'd give you advice, and he would never like smile or laugh. He was always very serious and had dry humor. He was hilarious. I used to love that guy. JP says the Police had quite a few of these weird sounds on their albums as well. That is true, yeah. You had the funny chord at the beginning of, is it Roxanne? Where Sting accidentally sits on the piano and he plays a chord with his butt cheek. That's a famous story as well. A lot of cool stuff. Oh, Guido Sarducci. Yeah, Guido. That was his name. Why am I thinking Frank? I think I'm thinking Frank because I had a priest in my elementary school that was called Frank. I think that's why I remember Frank. But yeah, Guido Sarducci. He was hilarious, man. I used to love that guy. Oh yeah. Guido Sarducci reminds me, and of course there's also Dr. Vinnie Boom Bats, right? He was a famous character that no respect. I get no respect. You know what I mean? He used to have he was always mentioning going to see Dr. Vinnie Boom Bats and getting a second opinion. He was freaking funny. Okay, getting serious here. We got a serious question. Chris says, I've got a question. Is there really a great guitar cable to use? That's one of these questions that we can go down the rabbit hole. Because there's definitely differences in good quality guitar cables. Guaranteed. I've done that test, and I could attest that if you use good quality cables, you definitely hear a difference. More of the highs go through, you lose less of those high frequencies, especially if you keep your cable runs short. But if you're, playing at home and you just need a cable. To me, a great cable is a cable that doesn't break. I have a Whirlwind cable, and I don't even know if Whirlwind still exists, but it was one of my first cables that I ever bought. This cable's got to be at least a good 40 years old. and it never broke. And I still have it here somewhere. I don't know where it ended up. But they used to make some really good cables. Now there's even better cables. You can spend a fortune on some of these cables. But I'm not really giving you a straight answer, because to me it's like, just buy the best quality cable you can afford, and the good quality cables do make a difference. Mogami comes up over and over again. Davis is mentioning it. That's one of the brands that really gets a lot of spotlight. The budget cables are going to be budget. They won't last as long. You're probably going to get more noise and interference. One of the tests I like to do when I have a cable is I plug it into the guitar, I plug it into the amplifier, I crank both, and then I take the cable and I just like wiggle it. I make it hit the ground when I'm wiggling it. And if you hear noises when it's doing that, throw it away. It means it's not insulated properly. It's picking up all kinds of noise and interference and stuff like that. And to me, that's a sign of a crappy cable. A lot of them do that, believe it or not. Cable length definitely does matter. When you're going above like 8 feet, 10 feet, you're already starting to lose the highs, especially if the cable's not very good to begin with. But most of the time, for home use, most of the time a cable's a cable. But it's a good question. All right, guys, I think we're going to wrap it up. I mean, I've been talking now for almost 2 hours. I think we've, unless you want to talk about more gear releases, because there's plenty of stuff coming out. But I mean, a lot of these things are, like for example, the Hartley Benton Parlor Acoustics. These are kind of new and pretty affordable, I would say, at about $260. I've seen some of those. Solid spruce tops, and they also have some electronics built in. So it's not too bad for $260. I don't know if what kind of reviews they're getting, but I'd be interested in taking a closer look at that. Casey Lee says, I'm really partial to silent guitar cables like Ernie Ball or Pig Hog Hex series. I know which ones you're talking about. I like the ones, again, there's also the ones where you, I don't know if we're talking about the same thing here, but there's a couple of cables that have a little switch on them. I think Planet Tone had come out with those, where there was a little switch so you can actually hit the switch and it would kill the noise. So when you unplug your guitar, you don't hear that big like bonk sound, like you're pulling out the thing. So you can silence it before you plug it in, so you don't get all of that. I thought that was a good idea. Of course, right now I'm playing a crappy cable, as you can already hear it. So not very good. Perfect timing, for the cable to crap out. These are free cables that came with some gear. So let me give you an example of a cheap cable. Sorry, guys. Can you? I don't know if you can even hear this. Well, you won't be able to hear it because I have my noise gate. It won't work. The noise gate is on, so it kills all the sound. All right. All right, guys, I think that's going to be a wrap for today. Thank you for sticking around for an hour and almost 2 hours, actually, an hour and 50 minutes. I had a good time talking with you guys. We'll be back We'll be having some special guests next week. So if everything goes according to plan, I'm circling Sunday 8 p.m. next week. So it's not going to be in the morning. It's going to be in the evening. Or maybe I'll even do 2 shows. Maybe I'll do one in the morning alone and one in the evening with the boys. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm going to see if I can get our very own Shane Walton on the show, Vinny's World, and David. I'm looking forward to talking to you guys. So that's it for today. Thank you for tuning in. I'm going to answer one last question here before I go, because Zarly is asking a question. It says, Tony, have you seen the Donner HSS Sir style guitar that is advertised for $299? And they will give you an extra discount. Which one is that? Because I have a couple of Donner guitars here. I have one hanging up right on my wall, HSS style. I don't know if that's the one you're talking about. Let me just show you that one. Give me a sec before I let you guys go, just in case. Sorry guys, I'm gonna just turn this off. There we go. All right, give me one sec. I'm gonna put this one down and get the other one. I don't know if this is the one you're talking about. Maybe it is. Zarly, is this the one you're talking about? Is that it? Look at the back. Look at the front. Is that the one? I don't know if that's the one you're talking about, Zarly, but that's the one that I'm talking about. This is a kind of a Sir style guitar, yeah. Let me see if I can... Oh. It's probably not going to be in tune because it was hanging on my wall for a while. Is that the one or no? That's it. Yeah, okay. I did a full review on this, Zarly. It's in my YouTube channel. If ever you want to see it, go watch that video and you get all the details. It's actually a very cool guitar for the price, especially. I think the humbucker sounds good. Single coils probably could be upgraded. But overall, especially for the money, I really like it. The neck is really nice, and it's got a neck that is not finished in the back. I really like that. And look at the heel, you know. It's a very great starting point if you want to mod it to your specific specs, you know. And if there's something you don't want or like, you can easily change that. I would just probably upgrade these 2 pickups here. Although the humbucker in the bridge position is fine, and you can split it and everything. So, all right. So Zarly, just check it out on my channel. All the information is there. I think it's a great buy. I'm very happy, and also has locking tuners on this. So for like the money they're asking for, you're getting a lot of pretty nice features. Not very expensive. I don't know if they're still selling them for the same price. And I even like the offset dots in the neck. You know, if this didn't say Donner on it, and maybe these 2 pickups they didn't look like cheap pickups, you probably wouldn't be able to tell that this is not a super expensive guitar. It plays really nice, especially once you set it up to your liking. So yeah, check it out. Okay, I'm out of here, guys. Have a great rest of your week. We'll be back next week with some special guests. It'll be an evening show. I'll even put a little special invite early on so people know that we'll be on a little bit later. And I'm looking forward to seeing everybody there. Have a great, great weekend. Enjoy yourself. Play your guitar. And remember, guys, it's all about practice. All right. If you don't mind giving me a thumbs up on the way out, I would appreciate it. All right, guys, have a fantastic week. See you soon.